What you doing there, Jack?
Well, Nick, I've got to do a compound miter that creates a little roof over here. And when you do a compound miter, neither your miter or your tilt is what you think it would be. I want this to be a 22.5 degree slope. Notice that's a box and those are 45 degree miters. Now I've calculated that part. My miter actually has to be 41 degrees and the blade tilt has to be 20.5 degrees to make that happen. You can figure that out on your own. But here's what I'm going to show you. This is how I set it up on the double miter. This is what's great about this English PK. The gauge that's cut into the table only references off that flat. So you can't slide the back table into position using the gauge unless you use the front gauge. So if I take my miter, which is a drop in at 45, I've got to come back to 41. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's where that one be. Now how do I get that one to be complementary? Well, I basically have to move that in 8 degrees because I moved it in 4, that's 8 degrees. So if I count 8 degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm gonna come put a little mark right there. That's my 8 degrees. See that little mark? And you see there's a mark right here for where the 90 was. Now what I do is I'll come back to my 40 from the 45. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll lock that down now on that. And now I can loosen this off and come to that mark. And there I am coming to that mark. That now makes this complementary.
Okay.
Okay, which means anybody that is cutting, I can cut this one this way and this one this way without ever changing anything. So I made a cut over here to show you what I've done. Now it has to be 90 as well. So my slope is the right slope. You can see the complementary joints come together and you can see it fits perfectly 90 degrees.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, so now I'll cut the big pieces without wasting wood. An interesting thing of the double miter and the PK. Thanks, Nick.
No problem, Jack.
Okay, just got a little box captured. Okay, so I quickly glued it together. I got some pretty decent joinery. Yeah, I'll show you the results when it's done. Okay, we'll let that set up for a little while. We'll clean the bottom. So, yeah, it's all right. Looks all right. This is my worst joint, which is pretty decent. Okay. And I checked it diagonally, it's square. So what I'm doing is I'm locking it in a frame and pushing pressure on it. You make the frame just a little, I had to pull in just a little bit, but that is proper. So now that I got that done, I can do the rest. You know, did I make it more complicated than it needed to be? Probably. Anyway, thanks for watching. Okay. The part's done. I can just do the brackets. Right. It's flat on the top. The venting will start here, so it's always running water out. Just a small little gap all the way around, so that expansion and contraction can occur. Okay. Looks pretty good. All I've got are the brackets in the corners, and I can start painting. I should have that done, well, at least the brackets start. Probably this weekend I'll get this unit done and I can start the grill work, which is quite sophisticated. Thanks for watching. You want to be careful about little stuff like this, and at least white cedar and softwoods. You don't want to sand that out. What happens if you sand that out? Moisture will come and it'll swell back out. So the best thing to do in situations like that is to just wet the surface with a damp cloth.
before you sand. And I swear to God, that'll save you a lot of headaches in the finishes, okay? So do not sand those out. Soak them out. Now if you've got no time, just put a cloth down and use an iron, household iron, it'll do it immediately. But generally, if you're working efficiently, you can do this in enough time. Now, that's almost out right now. Look at that. Okay, so we're painting it up. I'll do a couple coats. Want to seal the whole thing. Nobody wants to go up to the tower and paint again, not once it's installed. So we want to coat it, give it the best longevity. Now, I had some people asking me, is that an acceptable roof? Well, is it an acceptable windowsill? Of course it is. So that's pitched more than a windowsill, and it should be fine. And remember, it's not trapped inside of a building. In other words, there's air all the way around it. Think of an old barn, 100-year-old pine, never rots out as long as there's air all around it. Now here's some old growth that I got off my brother's property. Not very big trees, but extremely tight grain. You know, you're talking, can you see the rings? And they're pretty tight, eh? Old growth isn't always a big tree, right? And those are the best rot resistance. So those are the brackets. They're finally fleshed out. You can see my mock-up. You know, I've obviously changed it a little bit from my mock-up, scaled it down a little lighter, and put the the serif details. So I'll paint that up, see if I can get a couple coats on that tomorrow. I have to mill some crown molding stock, and we'll start fleshing that out. Thanks for watching.
Doodles really help me in my design, especially when I'm figuring out something that might be quite interesting. So I've decided on the tower to do a shingle roof, mostly because the longevity will last a lot longer. And it's my belief that most of the towers I've seen are quite ornate. And so there's an opportunity here to give it a jewel on the top. Now, one could just do shingle without a pattern. That's one way. Two things that have bothered me with this are that I don't know if I'm going to want a corner board, which is the typical way to do hips on a roof. I think I'm going to weave it, but I'm going to try it in a different type of way that allows me to do a unique pattern, I think. Now, this is generally the configuration of the roof. And I'm going to pull a line. You can see a chalk line there. I'm going to pull a line on that cross section. And what I want to do is maintain the joints of all the shingle by that swinging this way, creating the lines parallel with the hip edge. And the bottom coursing will actually be on the radii. It'll also diminish inside, so there's always the same number of shingles across a course. So the exposure will diminish, and but always in line. What do you think? Please comment. So how I would control the exposure is, let's assume, this is 24 inches and I've divided it into 3-inch increments. We're going to start with a 6-inch shingle, and there's going to be 4 of them across, and I maintain always a half lap detail. And the exposure changes, so it'll start from 6-inch and then diminish, always maintaining. I need to come up with a pattern that perhaps per shingle I have a radii. So it should look quite like a snake skin, I think. Anyway, please comment.